Hi, we're in Power, Montana, which is a very, very small town north of Great Falls. This is actually where my rental house is, as I stay out here for the CM Russell show. And it's overcast today, which I'm not always a fan of overcast light in the west. Everything seems to flatten out. So I thought, well, I'm going to go out and paint, even if it's not just reference for me. Go out and find something to paint. And right next to my rental house is this old truck, this old vehicle. So I thought, well, heck, let's paint that. This is kind of a different subject matter. I have painted stuff like this before because the drawing is a challenge. But I thought I'd share with you guys something a little different. If you're watching this on YouTube, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment below. I show the first 20 minutes or so to the YouTube public, and then the rest is reserved for my Patreon supporters. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, just click on the link below, $5 a month. And you can watch this whole video from start to finish without any commercial interruptions. So, this is more of a challenge in drawing than anything else, which is why these kind of subjects are great for days when the light is not that interesting. And that's usually how I tend to operate if the subject in and of itself is very interesting regardless of the light, and sometimes the light, makes it more interesting. But if it's interesting regardless of the light, well, these are nice things to wait and do on an overcast day. But this is a drawing challenge, and the thing about drawing challenges, subjects that rely heavily on drawing skills, is that it's kind of like putting together a puzzle almost. I used to, years ago, when I worked this one day job as a graphic designer, which I was not crazy about the job because of people that were not the nicest people to work for. But it was in this old industrial building, and I used to take just one color of watercolor, and on my lunch break sometimes I would go back and just do a painting of the piping in this one section, just to and I wouldn't draw it in first. I just tried to paint it with paint and get it all correct from the start, just to really try to hone in on my observational skills. The fact that you couldn't erase it really made you think twice before you put a stroke down. And drawing is a very important part of painting. Don't disregard that at all. Now, to get the angles, I will hold my brush right up to the subject and then keep my arm as stiff as possible, and then move that brush down to my canvas. So the center of the windshield is about right there. And I'm just doing this all in one color right now. I don't want to contend with different colors until I have a reasonably good rendition. So just to forewarn you, this is going to be a little more of a tedious process than some of my other landscape stuff. Landscape stuff, one nice thing about it is it's quick. This stuff takes a while. But also, too, another thing to keep in mind is that you don't have to draw this like a machinist or an architect would. Which means you can leave a little bit of so-called errors in. Like maybe this light isn't perfectly where it is on the car, but it's close enough. So the end of this ventilation system is actually right there. Or these vents, I should say, not ventilation system. And I'll just do some gentle erasing with mineral spirits and a paper towel. The bumper down here. Actually, I think that's too far down. Let's move that up a bit. If you really want to get precise, you can measure how long is this line compared to the windshield, so on and so forth. I might do that a little bit, but once again, I'm not doing this to impress an architect, but it does seem like the line from here to here is about the height from there to the bumper. So I pretty much got that right on just by eyeballing it. That's a little too steep. If you ever want to hone in on your drawing skills, subjects like this, as well as the human figure, are really good. No matter what you're going to draw, a lot of people get hung up on subject matter when it comes to learning to draw. Really, all drawing is just learning how to observe proportions, angles, and shapes. Now, obviously, different subject matters are going to have different things about that, but what I learned a long time ago is that the ability to observe and concentrate on those things is really what it's all about. That's why I'm always, people say, well, you should paint this or paint that. And really, if you just, no matter what you're painting, and when you're in the learning phase, that is. Obviously, when you're doing subject matter, it's, a little different. But when you're in a learning phase, just learn how to observe and take your time with this stuff. Okay, so this headlight, there's a slight angle from here to here. The headlight, it does tilt up just a little bit. Probably not enough to really make much of a difference, but so something like this, it's not a whole lot dissimilar from drawing eyes on a face. You got to line them up in a certain way, and I will admit, though, that for this kind of stuff, I am a bit rusty. I haven't done this in a long time, or subject matter like this. So it does go up a little bit from there. And so I thought I had that line a little too high. And really good drawing is just about measuring. It's ultimately what most drawing is. You're just learning how to measure things. Measure lengths, compare lengths, proportions, things like that. So this goes so far. What is the length of that? I'm going to hold up my brush and measure the length of that. It's about the height of the windshield. So that's pretty much right on. The bumper ends right about there. Okay, now this is the part you step back, take a look at it. It does not have to be absolutely perfect. I used a old #1 round brush that you're not going to get a perfect line. You don't want one. I want to keep this a little bit sketchy. So just take a step back, take a look at it, and make sure it's convincing. That's really all you need to do. Now, somebody who's an expert on this model of truck and year and all that might be able to come up, and who spends their waking hours staring at these things and their nighttime hours dreaming about them. They might be able to come up and, critique it, but I'm not worried about those guys. I learned that they usually don't. They're not much into art, but they don't buy paintings much anyway. Not that I'm planning on selling this, but all right, so how does that look? That looks pretty good. So I think we're going to take a little more monochromatic approach, at least to start out, a transparent monochromatic approach to this subject. It's an overcast day. There's not a whole lot of color out here. And so let's work with it. I just got this old scratchy brush. Put some drips on there. So I'm going to stick with mostly transparent red oxide. You can also use burnt sienna. They're almost the same thing. And an ultramarine blue. Now my vents will go here, but I will just paint those over. We'll lay down the dark first. So I'm just searching for the darkest darks right now. That window there is pretty dark. Of course, we have our dark vent thing here. Those are big vents. My car overheated on the way here. My old 2003 Honda Civic. I drove it 3/4 across the country because that's all I had to drive. It was too expensive to rent a car and too much junk to try to fly. Plus, it's not like flying's cheap either. I see those vents, I think of my overheating in the middle of nowhere in Montana. That was interesting. Maybe if I get enough Patreon supporters, I can buy another car. Alright, so let's get some of this kind of rust in here. You can see this thing's starting to kind of come together. Windows are actually not a real dark value. Oh, wow. Be right back. Okay, I think we're okay. It's interesting in this town, they will blow off their emergency sirens, you know, the ones that tell you if there's a tornado coming or if they're under nuclear attack or something like that. They will just randomly go off. I don't know if it's random or if it's just some people like, hey, let's bring a little excitement into the town today. And it started to go off, so I figured I better shut the video off until it stops, and I hope they're done anyway. I hope it's some drunk guys like, you know, trying to get a rise out of everybody, or I can't remember what I was. I was actually doing that. Maybe they're like, hey, that guy's doing a video. Let's go mess him up. Okay, I'm going to start introducing a bit of Venetian red in here and alizarin. Still keeping on this warm side. What I want to do is just get an approximate tone of everything, and then I can go over it with more specific colors and tones after I get the approximates in. So mainly looking at color and value. I'm sorry, value really, not even really color, but more value. That license plate is blue, so let's just go with that. It's a nice little compliment. Okay, so the value back in here is darker than what's there. So let's get that in. Then the value back here is darker than that. Want to apologize for the big white thing over there in the background. Normally, when I come on these scenes, I usually try to think, you know, what would be nice to have as a background there, but they have this big white trailer, and I already moved something out of the way just so I could get the view I wanted of this old truck. I didn't want to, of course, move the whole trailer. I probably couldn't anyway. Get yelled at by somebody or so a little darker right in here. I'm going to introduce just a hint of green by doing yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna. I'm not using an actual green. Trying to keep it within this slightly more monochromatic spirit, if you will, or feel. Feel's a better word. Might kind of keep it sketchy too. Things like this are neat to keep sketchy. When you have an object that's your obvious focal point, keep everything around it kind of sketchy. It can be kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to stop there for the general YouTube public. If you want to see me finish this, jump on the Patreon, link below. Watch me finish it. No commercial interruptions. I want to thank you for watching. Give me a like and a thumbs up, and leave any comments you may have. And we'll see you again.